Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I was reminded this morning listening to Buffalo radio because everybody is assuming that in the next week the Buffalo Bills will win their first AFC East championship in 25 years. That when they did win, Jim Kelly was their quarterback, Bill Clinton was the president, and Dean Martin was still alive. So that's how long it's been, Russ.
Yeah, it's been a while. But, look, they're on a roll. You still find a way to complain about a very good football team.
Yeah, every Sunday. It's like unbelievable. The team is fun to watch. They got a quarterback, and yes, it's same old Bills for Mike.
I have no wins. My team has no wins, and I find more positives than Mike does.
Oh, I know.
I have to direct the Jets pre. I have to direct Jets pre and post game every Sunday. That's that's unusual.
I feel bad, man.
I swear, if Mike, if they get to the Super Bowl and they lose it, Mike will just lose it.
He will.
Even though it was an incredible ride.
Kevin, right. I'll just tell you this briefly. 1990, so 30 years ago, when they got into the Super Bowl against the Giants, and Norwood is lining up for that field goal. I could not watch it. I was sitting I was at my brother's business. I was sitting on the stairs with my head in my hands. And when I heard wide right, I'm like, of course, I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
All right.
Yeah, well, you do offer us comic relief, that we can get a deal with that. So
yes.
Here's the second part of my pre-show. So I saw online they showed a pass from Baker Mayfield where he threw it 70 yards in the air. He made a running start. It was a hell of a throw. Hits the goalpost. And they said that is the longest recorded throw in the NFL history. And so, of course, I knew two guys, and Kevin would know these two guys as far as being able to throw as long or longer, and that's Steve Bartkowski and Joe Namath.
Yeah,
for sure.
I can give you another.
I
can give you another one.
Who?
Former number 1 overall pick Jeff George. He had
Jeff George had a good arm too.
Yeah.
Namath would just throw it to the wrong team.
There have been quite a few guys that have thrown.
Uh-oh. He froze up there for a sec.
Practice.
Say that again, Kevin. You froze up there for a sec.
Yeah, guys have done it in practice and going around, but they never, measured it. So.
But I feel bad because there's not a lot of video. Like with the Bartkowski, you see ones that are chipped or one to Billy White Shoes Johnson that didn't make it to the end zone. You see those, but you don't see the other spectacular ones. But with Namath, I did some research and I found one, and I kind of remember I may have seen this one as a kid. He threw a 91-yard pass, non-touchdown to Rich Castor. So if it's a non-touchdown, it's Rich Castor. I mean, Rich Castor didn't have great speed. He just had really good hands and could get out in open field.
It was 91 in the air?
No, 91 in total. But the guy said in the air, it was somewhere between he said it was somewhere between 75 and 80.
Yeah, because
I believe that's true. And that was on a normal drop back. That wasn't like on a guy that got a running start like Baker Mayfield did.
Because there was a rather infamous Randall Cunningham throw in Buffalo against right. He was in the end zone and he fired it basically about 55 to 60 yards to Fred Barnett.
Yep.
And the defensive back missed him and he went 100 yards for a touchdown. So
you also had a 90-yard punt in that game. That game was amazing.
Oh, the 90-yard punt. I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I
was going to add something too, just off the subject here, but fitting in the pregame or the pre-show. We're at the stage of the pandemic where everybody is looking for something different to watch. And I've seen people put out, okay, I watched this and this and this. What's left? What should I watch? And universally, people say the Queen's Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and watched it, and what a fantastic miniseries that is.
Yeah, it's great.
The ability to make chess just look fascinating. I just marvel at the director, and apparently a lot of the chess aficionados have said that it's really incredibly accurate in terms of the moves and the way people see the board and moves.
Well, what I picked up on early, Kev, and it's only because this happened. We had that sensation when I was a kid with Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky, and I could tell that the that the producer was a Boris Spassky guy, or at least had some sort of appreciation. And I kind of looked it up because if you notice that, the Russian guy that you were seeing, he did a lot of things that Spassky did, but we all had that Bobby Fischer book and we all learned how to, checkmate somebody in 5 moves. But then when the whole neighborhood learned that, then all of a sudden you had to learn how to play chess again.
Yeah. And I have not yet watched the Queen's Gambit. It's something I'm going to watch, but I think I will like it because I liked the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer, which was a fantastic movie.
But this is even way better.
Right. I mean, right. I'm saying if this is better, then I probably will like this.
What I particularly enjoyed in this, I think it took place in like Kentucky for some of it. And Kev, that department store was real. Like I looked it up, and the one that they're in shopping, and it actually was real. So they even went down to the nitty gritty details there. And that I sort of like that when they do that and they sort of remind me of the past that way. That's great.
Yeah, I appreciate. I'm not a car guy, but I appreciated the cars in this as well.
Yeah.
They took us back to the 1960s, which is when I was growing up, and you see all that. All of it felt real.
Yeah.
Felt the way in the grocery store, the way the magazines were arranged.
Yeah, it was authentic. The candy stores. Yeah, it was great. Loved it.
All right, let's start the show. I'll introduce you, Dan. So,
sure.
Okay. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, December 18th, 2020.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
I'm Kevin Allen.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com, and we are pleased to be joined by former Hockey Buzzer Dan Petru. Hey, Dan, how's it going?
How we doing, guys?
Good.
Yeah, we're surviving. We're hoping that we have an NHL season. I think we still will, but everything has been thrown for a loop over the last 24 hours, and I wanted to ask Kevin about that to start off here because, Kev, it seemed like the news that was coming out during the week was that something was going to happen by the end of the week or on the weekend between the Board of Governors and the NHL Executive Board to vote on an agreement and get the season started by the middle of January. And then yesterday, all of a sudden, comes out this difficulty regarding the Canadian teams. And we'll go over this in depth, but it sounds like, and Pierre LeBrun mentioned this yesterday, it sounds like this was released yesterday to put some pressure on the provinces in Canada because they're all having sort of differing rules, and it may be 1 or 2 teams that can't play in their respective buildings, but if 1 or 2 can't, then they basically all can't, and they may have to move to the U.S.
Yeah, and I don't think they really saw this coming. I think there's always a sense that the government will always sort of bend the rules and twist it a little bit to allow everything to sort of work out for professional sports. And they're not doing that during this pandemic. And, I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen from this point forward. I think everyone knows there's going to be a season, but what it's going to look like, I think everybody thought they knew 48 hours ago, and I think they're less sure of that today. I tried to make some calls this morning on it, and the teams are just as confused as everybody else. And a lot of this plays in the fact is look what's happened in the pandemic, especially in the U.S. where we've been over 3,500 deaths per day, and in Canada there's been it's certainly much worse than it was when we played had the restart for the playoffs last season. And I think the people are saying, well, wait a minute, everyone's excited about the vaccine, but we're still 3 months away before enough people are going to are inoculated to give us any form of protection. So, and I wonder how the Canadian government officials felt too to read stories where there's discussion about perhaps having people in the arena and 30%, and some people even said perhaps 50%. Well, putting 8,000 folks in a 16,000 seat arena is a lot different than what the NFL is doing outside, and the hockey arenas are inside. And, football's doing what, 13, 14, 15,000.
Right.
Some of them not even that. So, I think all of that is just kind of added up to everyone said, okay, take a deep breath here, take one step back, and let's figure out how we're going to do this safely. And, the fact that Bettman talked to Anthony Fauci, and Fauci said there should be regional hubs to make it safe. Well, teams and players don't want to do that. So I think there's a lot of decisions have to be made. And I think the bottom line for this, I think we're still going to start in January, but it won't be the 13th.
No. And, Kev, the part about it is you're right. You couldn't have predicted what the government would do in Canada, but you could have predicted everything else. And that took a long time to get going. And now because there is a wrench in the works, things will end up starting later. If they had started this, a month ago, they could have possibly even hammered out negotiations with the Canadian government, but now it comes down to the wire where all of a sudden they have to make this tough decision. I don't blame Canada. What I think probably happens there is I think that because there's such a love for hockey there, I think that there's always this big pull for hockey. And then I think that non-hockey people, which a lot of scientists are, just non-sports people, always feel like they have to be heard here because it's hard to be heard over the hockey noise, right? That's probably the way they see it. And I think that's where all, the struggle comes from. And, end of the day, this decision could be real. I know it's probably a negotiating point, but I could see it happening because the NHL is going to have to make a decision in like a week.
Well, Dan, the thing that makes this more difficult as opposed to Major League Baseball and the NBA. With Major League Baseball, it was one team, the Blue Jays, and they moved to Buffalo, and then they were able to travel to each individual stadium for their schedule. With the Raptors, they're playing in Tampa at Amalie Arena. Here, it's 7 teams, and to Kevin's point, if they have to move 7 teams south of the border, they're going to have to find homes for all 7 of them. They may not switch to an all-Canadian division because they could conceivably stay in the current divisions. It's really a logistical nightmare if they have to move them south of the border.
Well, you can do one of two things. I guess if you move the team south, you don't have to do division realignment, right? That's something you can go back to normal. You can have multiple teams play in one city. You can have 2 Canadian teams in Atlanta, 2 Canadian teams in Kansas City. You go back to all the cities you left. You can have a team or 2 in Hartford. There's rinks available. You can have 2 teams in Buffalo. So I think there's some options there. But you can also get creative. John Scott tweeted last night, hey, if we're going to do this, let's go all in. Let's have Edmonton play in the East and have them play in the same division as like the Penguins and the Caps. So we see McDavid against like all these premier teams all the time. So if we're going to move a team like Edmonton to the East Coast or somewhere like that, then divisions really don't matter. You can have some fun with it and get creative. Now, we know the NHL will never
won't do that. You're right.
No, because it's fun and it's outside the box, and we know that's not going to happen. Why would we want to see McDavid on national television? But I just think that there are options here. It's just you have to get out in front of it. They should be. I'm sure they're looking for sites already, but I think you can have, maybe 3 spots that have 2 teams. So you maybe only need 3 or 4 spots. If you send Toronto to Buffalo and put 2 teams in 3 other cities, I don't think it's that bad. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the people that get screwed here the most are the schedulers. I don't think they're going to be sleeping until February.
Right. I think if they have to move south of the border too, I think it opens up more negotiation about perhaps playing regional pods.
Yes.
Right.
Because then, first of all, it'll be more safe for everyone. Players certainly don't want to do this, but if you said, look, why don't we start the season like that? Then we'll move into our own arenas when we can.
Right.
I think that would be on the table, and I think that would be a possibility.
Yeah, I think you could do that for the first month, and then maybe
see what happens.
Yeah, and migrate after that if it works.
And if that's the case, then you have to maintain the all-Canadian division, because once they go back into Canada, they're not going to want these teams traveling across the border. That's still going to be –
I don't know if they're going back into Canada. I wouldn't get that crazy because I don't know if it would be that fast for that. But I think Kev just means to be able to go to the other rinks in the NHL other than Canada. I don't know if Canada would open up that quick.
But we don't know what it'll look like in 2 or 3 months.
Right.
Then you might be able to go back across the board.
And one thing that Brian Burke said on on Hockey Central earlier this morning was that it's one province that they're having a problem with, and if that's the case, then it might be a solution that one team, and I don't know which one. Say it's Quebec. Say it's.
I think it's Quebec. No, yeah, I think it is.
Well, they have the worst cases of it too.
Then Montreal.
The queue is shut down, right?
Yeah,
right.
Oh yeah, it's been shut for a little while now. They say early January, but that's not going to happen.
But Montreal could play in Ottawa, and that would take care of it. So I mean, if that was a temporary thing until they could get approved, then he doesn't think that they would move all 7 teams south of the border. They would just either play in a hub in Canada or move that one team and displace them until they could play in their own building. So
I kind of wonder about this because I feel like if it was just the one, they would have done that already. I can't believe it's just one province. I have to believe there's more static than that. Again, look, in Ontario, they're not allowed to play. The OHL's not playing, so why would the NHL be allowed to play, right?
Well, because the OHL can't play. The OHL wants to play with fans. You know how the OHL and the AHL, they all need fans, and that's why they've pushed everything to February. But again, I really doubt whether the AHL or any of the junior leagues are going to play this year because I don't see them allowing at least a significant amount of fans before probably late spring.
I thought I also saw that British Columbia was a problem too. I don't think it's I don't think it's just one. I really don't. I think
that's what Burke said.
I know, but
if I was the Canadians, I'd want to move to South Florida and hang out in the Florida Panthers arena and get all of my fans.
Yes.
In South Florida, and if we're gonna, because Florida is the one state where you can have fans,
right? Because there's no rules in the state.
Yeah, see, like Randy wrote, Alberta's in shutdown. So, like, I can't believe Alberta would let them play hockey there if they're in shutdown mode.
Well, they're playing in Edmonton for the World Junior.
No, but this is a bubble, and this is because there's a lot of TSN money being taken care of this, and so they feel like they're doing it right. But again, the NHL is not going to do a bubble. If the NHL did a bubble, Alberta would allow the bubble too, but they're not.
But how
about the fact that they've eliminated the European Junior Championships?
Yeah,
they're not playing over there, but we're going to play the World Junior Championship,
right? That's
in Canada.
Well, it's because of money, Kev.
I know. Yeah.
We can all play in New Zealand. Everything's fine there.
You got to remember, you have to look at it from this perspective. TSN has very little to show right now, so this was a easy solution for them to try and make sure this happens. And, we got a report today, right, Mike? So,
yeah. Oh, by the way, TSN can show the World Darts Championship. They've been doing that the last 9 months. But no, a report came out about an hour and a half ago that 8 German team members had tested positive for COVID. And this is after they'd tested negative in Germany before they got on the plane. So, now apparently the last report is that they're going to quarantine until December 24th, which is the day before the tournament. So, this team is going to be at a complete disadvantage because they're not going to be able to practice, not going to be able to do anything until the day before the tournament. And there's not even a guarantee that even after that, if they test positive, then, is Germany just going to be eliminated from the tournament, Russ?
They could.
Yeah.
If they can't field a team, they will be. That would sound kind of rough, but I could see it happening. They could possibly go first few games and not play, forfeit, whatever, and be okay. But at some point they'd have to be able to get on the ice. But otherwise, they're going to keep moving on. I worry that they might get eliminated, but
the other thing about the World Junior Championships and really about the NHL as well, the protocol in the NHL will be well established by the time we played about if someone tests positive, what has to be done before we can play again. It'll be hammered down. But there is no agreement on when you're safe from infecting someone else. And I know that from just a member of my family who is dealing with that now. Who the doctor is saying one thing. The CDC website says another thing. There's other doctors that they know who have their own opinions about that. And it really is an opinion. So, if you establish the rule and, it's good that it'll be continuity, but the rule, that may not be the best way to go about it, because nobody knows what the best.
No, and they're not even sure after you get the vaccine if you can't still be a transmitter of it. Like that's right. They don't know that yet for certain. So there's always going to be some things up in the air, and that's why none of this is perfect science, and that's why you have to try and eliminate as much as you can. But the NHL has to play. Like I know there are some people who just say, shut it down. If they shut down, they're shutting down. Like that's it. You may not see them again.
I'm such a hypocrite too, because I said this morning on another show. Here I am, for some reason, the World Juniors, to me, I'm not sure why they're playing.
Right.
It just seems like these are young people. They've come from all over the world. It feels like, that, and I don't know this might not even be true, but the strain in Europe, it may be different than our strain. Maybe it's evolved and so forth. So it just doesn't seem like why do we need to do this?
Right.
On the other hand, I can't wait to watch it.
Right.
I'm such a hypocrite. I'll look forward to it. It'll be great. We'll watch it, but it is completely different. The NHL, that's a pro league. This is their livelihood.
Yeah.
This is how they earn their money. I think that's completely different than, World Juniors.
No, it is, Kev, because look, Mike Krzyzewski came out a week ago and said, I don't understand why we don't take a pause here for college basketball. And, we saw that somebody actually shortly after that, Devontae, I forget his last name, collapsed.
Right.
And luckily he's awake now, and hopefully he'll be okay. But Krzyzewski made a great point. It's like, why don't we just put a pause on this? These are kids. We could still play, but let's play when it's safer. And everybody else was like, no. So he wanted to go on the record for that.
But of course, you had, and I told you about this, Russ, the former University of Buffalo coach is now coaching Alabama. Nate Oates came out and ripped Krzyzewski for saying that. And I'm like, okay, why are you doing that? Because you're a coach who hasn't established himself in the NCAA, and you haven't won national championships like Krzyzewski has. He's actually looking out for the health of the kids, whereas you're looking for your own self-gratification. So everybody's got their own agenda. Okay, one other thing on this. Elliot Friedman reported that now nothing has been completely revealed about the return to play plan, but the indications are that there will be a taxi squad, that the rosters would be 28 players, so 5 extra. One of the extra would be a goaltender. It's unclear whether these players would have to clear waivers or not, but they would be paid on AHL salaries but receive NHL per diem. Now, the thing is, Russ, or Kev, actually, to start with you, I think this is a good idea. And the issue here is, no matter what they decide in terms of being able to play in Canada or being able to play in the U.S., there's going to be a difficulty with those Canadian teams, because if they're playing all in Canada, 3 AHL teams are in the U.S., and if they're playing in the U.S., there are 4 teams in Canada. So there's going to be a border situation either way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and those players are going to stay with their teams, so that won't impact us. To be honest with you, I thought it should have been a 30-person roster. Again, all we can judge it by is the NFL. We've had situations where a handful of players, were exposed. And, you know how the dressing room is, and we all know how flu spreads in the NHL dressing room. I would have taken it to 30 players. 7 extra doesn't seem outrageous to me.
It doesn't to me either. I agree.
The idea of having players, especially prospects, hanging out with NHL, veterans, I think you can learn from them.
Especially if the OHL is not playing and you've got guys on ELCs, you might as well at least use them whatever way you can, even if they are just practicing with.
And they're working out with NHL trainers.
Yeah.
So
what if you took the extra? What if you made it 9, and you took the extra 9 players, and before the game or something, did a 3-on-3 versus the other team's taxi squad, so they could be entertaining.
You could do it
because these kids need to play too.
Right. I don't think they can get away with just practicing. I mean, I do agree with Kevin that the benefit for somebody like, Nick Robertson, who we talked about on previous shows, a Leafs draft pick who played in the playoffs last year, that him going back to Peterborough or him practicing with Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza, it's probably more beneficial for him to practice with NHL veterans and to practice against players he's going to play with maybe as soon as this year or next year. But if the OHL does play starting in February and he's just sitting there practicing, he probably benefits more by going back to the OHL and playing every day. So, Russ, you have breaking news?
I do have some breaking player news. I think we're all going to be happy with this. Ilya Kovalchuk is done with the NHL. He is going back to the KHL. He's going to Omsk and to play with Bob Hartley. And so this will be it for Ilya Kovalchuk now.
I'm sure Eck will be heartbroken.
We won't have to talk about him with rumors anymore. We won't have to watch him destroy teams' power plays because he has to play on it.
Don't say that, because Lou could bring him back.
No, he won't bring him back.
Where is he going to play?
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But, again, he was a great player once upon a time, but he did just hang around too long. And his problem was he always followed the dollar sign. That's what ran into trouble for him.
Okay, let's go back to something that broke during the show yesterday. And Kevin and then Dan, I want to get your point of view on this. Henrik Lundqvist came out and announced that he was going to sit out the entire season because of a heart condition, which I'm sure was a complete shock. I'm not sure how much in the loop the Capitals were on this, but it really leaves the Capitals in a precarious situation because they have Ilya Samsonov coming off an injury, but he apparently is 100% healthy. They have one young goaltender in Vanacek, another one who's had some NHL experience in Phoenix Copley. But we wonder now, do they go out in free agency? There are a couple names out there like Jimmy Howard or Ryan Miller or Craig Anderson, or do they stand pat? I mean, this is really a situation for Brian McClellan.
I think they go get a veteran goalie. You can basically say, give them $700,000 and bring them in. I mean, what do these guys? These veteran goalies have no options if they want to play, and if they want to get back in the league, they got to show they can play still. So, I would get a veteran goalie, and they're a contending team. So you don't bring up a younger guy. The Lundqvist situation, though, it's just so sad. Like he's a guy that I just love talking to, and not everybody who is a talented player has the personality to be a star off the ice. And Lundqvist was a star on and off the ice. He was worth waiting for after any game because he always had something enlightening to say. Very articulate. Thinks outside the box. He's a Swede, but he's really a citizen of the world. He's very cosmopolitan, he told me that he was going to stay in New York, and mostly Swedes go home, but he was going to live here. So I hope this isn't how his career ends, because it's not fitting a player of his stature.
Yeah, I mean, we can't say that he's definitely going to be able to play again, though, either. He'll give it a go.
Yeah, we just don't know. And it's hard to even guess what it is. Ray Brooks, who's usually well-wired in, said that the only thing that he gleaned is it wasn't related to COVID.
Yeah.
And it wasn't life-threatening in terms of right this very second. So I don't know what it is, but I hope for the best, and I hope he can get back, because I just can't imagine that Henrik wants to go out this way.
Yeah, I mean, just having older parents, I know he said he has to remedy the situation with his heart. So, it's either going to get remedied with medicine or with some sort of slight surgery. So that's probably a big reason why he isn't playing. But the one thing I can tell you about Lundqvist, and I have interviewed him a bunch of times after games, I've seen him in the lowest lows, like losing to Philly in the shootout after Torch just played him and just shouldn't have been playing him the way he did for overtime, knowing that he had a bad knee, or the highest highs, him winning in like a game 7 in Pittsburgh. And he still is the same way after every game. He always talks to the media. He always answers everybody's questions. He never, ever like lashes out at anybody, but he's always super honest too. If you catch Lundqvist on the right day, he will tell you exactly what is going on with the team at all times. And that, that's something the Rangers will definitely miss, because right now you could have a captain of the team, which they don't, but you could have a captain of the team and he was still the guy that would keep everybody in check, because Lundqvist would hold everybody accountable to sort of practice his way, play as hard as you can, those kinds of things. That's, you're going to be missing that now in the locker room. I know there are fans that are just like, well, he was too old, he stinks, whatever. I still saw a pretty good Lundqvist in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Played. But the idea is that locker room presence, that's massive.
Well, Dan, as somebody who's seen Lundqvist play a lot, playing against the Islanders, and he would have been somebody who would have played against them this year with the Capitals. I'm sure you respect him as a goaltender, but this is impactful, because I don't think they wanted to depend on Samsonov for the majority of the 56 games, and now they're probably going to have to lean on a 23-year-old goaltender more than they wanted to.
Well, yeah, first of all, for the past 20 years, Lundqvist is probably the best goalie I've seen. He's absolutely fantastic. I have the utmost respect for that guy. And like I said, like you said, for someone who plays for the rival, I have nothing but respect for that man. I wish, and I never have a bad thing to say about him. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he gets better, and I hope he can go out on his own terms, especially when you have someone as great as him. You want him to go out on his own terms, not being told, hey, you can't play anymore. As for the Capitals, I like Samsonov a lot. I think like Ryan Miller or Jimmy Howard just kind of makes sense there. Go get a veteran guy.
Miller's an assistant coach now, though. Is he really going to change that? I don't know, but I just think like just someone who is established as a backup. Like Miller's been good the past couple of years as a backup. Just someone who almost like a security blanket. I want to see Samsonov play a whole season. I think he's the real deal. I think he's extremely talented. But if that goes south, then you have a backup there who can absolutely carry the team for a little while. Because if Samsonov doesn't work, and then you sign a veteran player, then all of a sudden you're probably shopping for a goalie at the trade deadline, which is okay.
Right.
So I just think you want the insurance to just get to that point, see how the season develops, and just be able to make a run for the playoffs.
The only thing that worries me, Dan, and Kevin and I are plugged into this, like Samsonov had that ATV accident, which kept him out of the playoffs and out of the bubble, and we haven't seen or heard one update. And you would think by now we would hear something, especially with Lundqvist being out, like them saying, hey, don't worry about it, Samsonov's fine. But until we hear something, I don't know.
Sure. Right. Well, if that's the case, then you may have to look more aggressively for on the market, than just someone who's a backup. You have to try and bring someone in that you think can be a starter.
Yeah, I mean, the other names out there, Corey Schneider, supposedly we had heard rumors, Dan, of him basically having an agreement in place that hasn't been announced with the Islanders.
Yeah, it looks like him, Martin, and Green all have backdoor deals ready to be announced.
Right, and the other one was Craig Anderson, but as I said yesterday, Craig Anderson probably, I would seriously doubt whether he plays in the NHL this year simply because of COVID, because his wife is a recovering cancer, had cancer, and obviously with COVID and the pre-existing conditions, maybe he doesn't want to expose himself to the possibility of getting positive and transmitting it to her. So I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I would guess that was a possibility. So I mean, we'll see what happens, but it's going to be an interesting situation what Washington does, and if they don't make a trade for a goaltender, they could be somebody who looks on the waiver wire for somebody to sort of plug the hole behind Samsonov. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, yesterday, Kevin, we saw Anthony Duclair sign with Florida, 1-year deal, $1.7 million, and I looked. He was his own agent, and I thought this was an advertisement that not that you shouldn't be your own agent, just like you shouldn't be your own lawyer when you're in a murder trial. But he did get a $50,000 raise. But getting a $50,000 raise and probably getting a little bit of a tax break because he's in Florida with no state tax is not great when you scored 23 goals last year.
Yeah, but I don't think the interest in Duclair was commensurate with his goal scoring numbers. I think the jury is still out on Duclair. I think that's what people think about him. So I don't know that he was ever going to break the bank, whether he had a top agent or not. Would he have gotten more money with a good yeah, probably. But I think if everyone believed in his potential, he would still be with the Ottawa Senators.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone just isn't sold yet that he can do it on a consistent basis. But I think it's a good roll of the dice. This guy has talent.
Yeah, I like it. I mean,
yeah, I don't think you can go wrong is taking a chance on it.
Now, this is smart by Bill Zito. If you get somewhere between 15 and 20 goals for that price tag, you're killing it. It doesn't hurt Duclair. Again, I've never been able to put my finger on any reason why he keeps going from team to team to team. I've watched him since since the Rangers, and even in the queue, when he was in the queue, I would hear about him, and the worst that I would hear was work ethic and doesn't play defense. Well, work ethic certainly got better over the years, and I saw that especially when he hit the Rangers. Torts pretty much made sure of that. But defensively, okay, there's going to be some gaps with him for sure, but I can't imagine it's that bad that you wouldn't want a guy who could skate like he does and possibly even score more than 23 goals. I think there's a chance he could score more than that.
Well, Dan, it was funny because I looked it up because I knew he played with Quenneville in Chicago. He was traded from Arizona to Chicago, and in 23 games with the Hawks, he had 2 goals and 6 assists. So he didn't have a lot of success under Quenneville, but I think in this instance, he's probably going to play top 6 minutes with, Barkov or somebody, in the top 6 because they really don't have any scoring wingers, not many of them.
Well, two more points I want to make. First of all, the problem is Duclair does have the potential to score 30, but he also has the potential to score 9.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good point.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
And I predict that Joel Quenneville is going to have all sorts of issues with our good friend Duclair. He's not. That was the first thing I thought. He's not a Joel Quenneville type of player.
No, but who knows who he played with in Chicago too, right? Like I don't even know who his line mates were there. It couldn't have been great.
I don't remember, but Dan, what did you think of the signing?
It's fine for 1.7. It's fine. I think the upside is there. And look, maybe he finds some chemistry with Barkov. Maybe not. But I mean, for a team that's lost Dadonov and they're going to lose Hoffman, they need to bring in some talent in the top 6. It definitely makes them quicker. So like I said, for 1.7 and a 1-year deal, I don't really think there's that much risk here.
Now on Hoffman, Elliot Friedman mentioned in his, I think it was in his recent column, that with the retirement of Alex Steen, and let me just take a detour on that one because again, this goes along. And Dan, I want to ask you this first because Lou Lamoriello, things just seem to fall into place. We talked about this last week about Johnny Boy. I think they were in trouble in terms of getting Barzal signed. But then lo and behold, Boychuk retires and $6 million just drops off the cap. And I don't think there was any, chicanery going on here, but it just seems.
No, 92 stitches to your eye is not chicanery.
But
I just want people in the comments to realize
No, that's fair. We get that.
He almost lost his eye.
Right. No. But he did play, and that's what muddies up the situation. Is
right. He tried to play, it just didn't work.
No. That last game, he played more minutes than other defensemen, and he played a lot on the penalty kill. So it's a little bit more than trying to play. They played him.
He tried to play him. It just didn't work out.
And Alex Steen played in the playoffs for St. Louis, but it was apparently a degenerative back problem. He's 36 years old. He's had a long and pretty distinguished career. But the report is that with the money opened up by Steen retiring and going on LTIR for the final year of his contract, and Tarasenko being out for a sizable portion, that the Blues may be checking in on Mike Hoffman. Kevin, apparently Doug Armstrong has looked into Hoffman previously when he was being traded by Ottawa. And if you're looking to fill a hole vacated by Tarasenko, Hoffman isn't the worst guy to choose.
For sure. It's so fascinating. Like Hoffman, you look at him and he's just been a consistent goal scorer. Right. Like, I mean, he gets goals. And, the problem is, and I thought it was a GM who, said this to me, and it makes perfect sense the way he presented it. The problem with Hoffman is you look at him and you really like his goals, and then you compare him to who you have on your roster, and you say, but the guy I already have is a better hockey player. Like that Hoffman can only score goals. But, I find problematic about that is it's always amazing to me, like, it's okay. You have guys on your team, they're checkers, they're fourth liners, and that's okay if all they do is check. Mm-hmm. You have stay-at-home defensemen on your team, and it's okay if they don't have any offensive talent. But you bring a scorer on, and you say, well, he's got to do more.
Yeah.
And scoring is the name of the game. Like, you got to get goals. I mean, how many times?
Coaches will tell you scoring's the name of the game, but it's defense first on every single team in the league, and they're always trying to shut down the other team. And coaches don't want problems, Kev, and that's the problem. It's like they would rather have the grinder guy that scores 17 goals but covers his own end because that's one less problem for them.
Well, I understand that, but a lot of the teams where Hoffman can go, they play okay defensively, but they don't have enough goals. I think you just got to be more accepting. I think he's a valuable guy, and especially now that he says he'll, at least we've heard that he has said that he'll take a 1-year deal. He'll take a Taylor Hall style, contract. So, and then, try to show again and wait and see what, will be available.
When hockey was more accepting of that, Kev, in the 80s. In that high scoring era, there were plenty of guys that didn't play a lick of defense, and it was okay. But all of a sudden, we got to the clutch and grab era, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse as far as having to be defensively responsible. And even though the game opened up, you still always had to be defensively responble. I've been hearing it ever since I've been covering.
Well, I like it from St. Louis's perspective, though.
I do too.
I really do. I thought Columbus would be all about them. Like
I did too, but I don't think they want to spend money.
I think the issue is there as well, and they're going to end up with Granlund, and I just think that's a poor option.
I think first of all, I think that Hoffman and Tortorella is not a good marriage, just like Duclair and Quenneville is.
Granlund's a more responsible guy. That's true,
right? And
we're assuming Granlund will be cheaper.
Right, he'll be cheaper, and he did play with Mikko Koivu in Minnesota, and they got the Yarmo Finnish connection, so it does add up, and I think he's a more responsible two-way player. Dan, I want to
more player breaking news, Mike.
Go ahead.
This one's interesting. So, Jesse Puljujarvi's on his way to Edmonton, and I find that interesting because now this is the first time that we really are going to see how he interacts back with the team, because he's always been a member of this team, but he's been overseas this entire time since everything went bad. Now it's a few years later. I really hope that he can really make a go of it and actually do well in Edmonton. That would be a great story if it happens.
Well, I mean, I'm curious. I can't imagine that they would re-sign him and not put him on one of the two lines with either McDavid or with Draisaitl. If they don't do that, then I think this is a marriage that's not going to last. It's going to be like Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor's third marriage. It won't last too long.
That diamond lasted, though, Mike. Diamonds are forever.
No, that's the perfume. Yeah, anyway.
There was a big diamond that Richard Burton bought, or the biggest diamond in the world at the time.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Kevin would know about that.
Yeah, that's true. I remember there was the story. Yeah.
Dan, I wanted to ask you about the Islanders because, I mentioned Barzal before. It's still an unresolved situation. Apparently, there continue to be talks between the two sides, but I don't know whether this is something that's going to wait until after the agreement has been reached with the NHL and the PA and we're on the road to training camp. But what have you heard about the progress between the two sides?
It sounds like it's almost done. It sounds like it's going to be about a 3-year bridge deal. And that would end when they have a lot of money coming off the cap in year 3. After year 3, so that they would be able to really lock him up long term. He's already said publicly he does not care about this contract. He will take fair market value. He's not looking for a long-term deal. He's willing to work with the team. I know Pulock left some money on the table. I expect Barzal will as well. And from what I've heard, it's somewhere 6.5, 3 years. It sounds like what's being discussed. Okay. And I think that's fine. And everybody who's on that current roster is completely bought into the current situation. So I don't foresee it being an issue at all.
Okay, but what about let's fast forward 3 years down the line, and let's say the new arena is a big success, and let's say they're in the top 5 revenue-wise, and now he wants to get paid top 5 revenue-wise, and maybe everybody else starts to want that too on the Islanders. I would worry about that because we knew he was probably going to sign a bridge deal.
We can't worry about 3 years from now. Let's get a new building first. Come on.
All right. I mean, this is your franchise player. There is nobody else in this organization, in the Islanders organization, that will remotely be as good as Barzal. And actually, if he played somewhere else, he would have 30 more points a year. But he's playing Barry Trotz, so
Yeah, and I mean, we've made comparatives between this and the top.
Wait, one second, Mike. Who's the other big 3 years from now besides Pulock? Maybe Beauvillier. Nelson's next deal is not going to be huge.
No. But Beauvillier and Pulock
they're not going to be $8 million players. Pulock might be.
Yeah, Pulock,
but not Beauvillier.
No, he won't be.
Right.
Sorokin might be at that point, though.
He might be. I hope he is.
Yeah, in 3 years, Varlamov's contract expires, Ladd's contract expires unless they sweeten the pot to Seattle to take Ladd off their hands or somebody else off their hands to clear more money. But no, I mean, we've in previous shows, Dan had compared the situation with Tavares to the situation with Barzal. And the thing is, Tavares signed a 5-year deal off the entry-level deal, and he was a UFA. In this instance, you have 1 year. He'd 1 year away from being a UFA, so you have a year of arbitration eligibility. So you have control over him.
Right.
But if he only wants the 1 year, then he could walk to free agency. But that's why they'll have to pay him.
I'm not worried about that. This is not John Tavares. This is a completely different situation.
Right.
Look, when Tavares was going through was the dog and pony clown show that was going on with the Island. They have stability from the top with their owners. They have stability with their general manager, vice president. They have stability with their coaching staff. They're going to have a brand new arena. Those questions that were all questions for John Tavares are not going to be questions for Barzal. I'm not worried about that.
The other question I had regarding the Islanders is, what is the perception of the balance between Varlamov and Sorokin? Is it going to be a 1A, 1B scenario, or is Varlamov still the number one?
I think it's a wait and see. I think early in the season, I think they might alternate, like what Trotz did with Greiss and Varlamov last year, and then we'll see if anyone takes the reins. It sounds like Sorokin's ready to go. He was great. He was great. I think him coming over last year and practicing throughout the playoffs with the team was very helpful for him. He's taking English classes, getting used to the culture, being around his future teammates. So I think the fit is there. I honestly think it's his job to take. If he's ready, I think it's going to be his job.
But out of the gate, they're going to start. Yeah, they're going to start Varlamov game one, and out of the
Yeah. To finish off the show, yesterday we took a look at the betting odds for the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. Today we'll look at the betting odds for the Hart Trophy. I'll do it in blocks of 3, and maybe we can just say if you think those odds are whether you.
Well, let's just say whether you would take that action or you wouldn't.
Right. Okay. The top 3 are Nathan McKinnon at plus 550. Connor McDavid at plus 600, or Artemi Panarin at plus 800. I think Panarin is way too. I don't think that's a good line for him. I don't know what you mean. I would take action on the first 2. I wouldn't take it on Panarin because that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Kevin,
what's the Draisaitl at? You know that I actually do these things now.
Right.
In my job, I did the Rocket Richard. And, when you're doing futures bets, as I've now been well schooled on, you're looking for a balance between payoff and opportunity.
Right.
So, like, you really want somebody with really good odds, unless it's, I was doing the Rocket Richard, like plus 500 for Alex Ovechkin, who's won it has a chance to win it his 10th time,
It's pretty good odds.
Yeah, it's pretty good payoff.
It is.
So, it's worth doing that. But I would be looking for someone who's at like 1,000. Like,
we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But I'm just saying, like, out of those three, I wouldn't bet Panarin at all.
Right. And now, okay, the next three, I like two of the the betting line on two of them. The third one I think is terrible. Nikita Kucherov at plus 1,100. Leon Draisaitl at plus 1,200. So that's David is 600 and he's 1,200. And Jack Eichel at 1,500. Nobody's winning an MVP on a team that's going to be possibly dead last in the NHL.
Honestly, the only one I would do is, like Kevin was saying, and out of that grouping is Draisaitl, because I don't even know what Tampa is yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, in that division, Tampa is. You can start them in the conference finals.
Yeah, if those divisional alignments are correct, they.
But it may not be. They may switch it all up too.
But Kucherov has a lot of other guys in this team that will take votes from him.
He does.
I think that's a good point, right?
And that's the issue.
Yeah. At plus 1,200, Draisaitl is a really good value.
Good bet.
I don't know the odds. I haven't looked at him, but if I had to throw down $10 or more, I don't know what he is. I would take Elias Pettersson. I think that's a guy.
He'll be in the group, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So Austin Matthews is plus 1,600.
That's good because the playoff stats don't count towards the award. That's probably really good bet.
Yeah, 1,600 is good. He's a good
Matthews, for a player like Matthews. That is good.
Those are good odds.
Braden Point and Jonathan Huberdeau are plus 2,000, along with Elias Pettersson. Okay, Jonathan Huberdeau being in the same category as Braden Point and Pettersson. Which one doesn't belong?
That Barkov.
Yeah. Well, odds are established based on how people bet. So.
Right. Yeah. Sidney Crosby at plus 2,200.
I mean, there's never anything wrong.
Never a bad time to bet.
Yeah, is there wrong with throwing $10 on that? There's nothing wrong with that.
You could throw 10 on Crosby and not feel bad about it.
Right. Okay, Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Malkin, and Mitch Marner at plus 2,500.
You know what's funny? I wouldn't do any of them. I'm not feeling it.
I
would do Crosby over those four. If I had to group those four, I would do Crosby over those four, because now Ovechkin, his job just got a lot harder.
It was Ovechkin, Malkin, and Marner.
Yeah, we don't even know who his goalie is.
Yeah, and of those three, I mean, Malkin's. I believe Malkin's declining.
He is declining, but still, his declining is great. But
I would still bet Ovechkin too. For you bet $100, just suppose he gets 60 goals this year, and he has a record number of assists, and the team is better than people think. Like, that's not a bad value bet.
Matthew Barzal is plus 2,800. Dan,
he won't get enough points.
Right, that's the only problem with that.
Right, three players at plus 3,000. Brad Marchand.
That's good odds.
Sebastian Aho and Mark Stone.
I got to tell you, of those three, Aho might be the most tantalizing bet of everything I've heard.
I agree.
Because one of these years, Carolina is going to come through on being good. We all say it's always when they get a better goalie, but maybe one year the goalie will kick in, because Aho is a hell of a player.
Yeah.
Right. Wearing their stolen Whalers jerseys.
Connor Hellebuyck at plus 3,500.
I'm going to say no, because very few goalies do it. I know it happens, but it's rare.
Yeah.
I know he's been enigmatic, but would anybody be surprised if Patrick Laine scored 38 goals in 55 games?
No, because it would put Winnipeg in a pickle, in a big pickle, and I'm sure that's what they're looking for.
I don't even know. We'll see if Laine's in this list.
Right.
He is not.
Wow.
Okay, let's see. The final four, Alexander Barkov at plus 4,000.
I like those odds.
That's good odds.
Patrice Bergeron at plus 5,000.
I mean, if you want to just throw down $10 on Patrice Bergeron, why not?
Sean Couturier at plus 5,000.
That's good too.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick Kane at plus 5,500. He's not too old to still have a big.
But the problem,
he can still have a 65-point season. I just think the team's gonna be a tire fire.
How many guys get the heart when their team doesn't make the playoffs? That's
Nobody
right.
That's right.
That was my Eichel case, but
how come David Pasternak's not on that list?
Well, we mentioned him.
We did. Okay.
Yes, Pasternak is, but Jonathan Taves is not.
He was 1,500. Is that what you said?
2,500.
Oh, 25. I would do $10 on Pasternak too for 25. I mean,
well, it depends on when he's coming back from his injury. So
no defense on this list either. How about Cal McCarr?
Yeah,
McCarr. That's surprising. He's not in there. That's a good point.
And only one goaltender. So
right.
Dan, I know that you do a podcast with Noel Fogelman and it's Michael Vartan, correct?
Yeah. Every Friday tonight, 5:30. Every Friday night, we're on YouTube. We stream live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Tonight, we have a huge guest. You're right below me. Russ Cohen's going to come on and talk about Lundqvist. The show's called Advanced Shouting. Check us out on YouTube. Please subscribe. It's a little mix of everything. We definitely always start with hockey, though. We talk hockey. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills tonight and the Cleveland Browns.
And you're not going to have me on the show?
No, we like to have analysts on the show. How many of those books behind you did you write?
How many did I read?
Well, there you go. But no, we're going to talk about the Bills. We always have a trivia. We usually break down really funny baseball or hockey cards from the 1990s. And we just try and have a really good time and usually drink a little bit while we do the show. So Advanced Shouting on YouTube. Give us a follow. Check us out. I think you'll like it.
Okay. All right. Great show, guys. We'll be back on Monday for the next edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Dan Petru, for Kevin Allen, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just